Governor Ron DeSantis, welcome to the Reagan Library.
It's great to be here.
Well, Governor, in 60 seconds or less, what does Ronald Reagan mean to you?
Well, Ronald Reagan was the first president I knew about as a young kid. I was born in 1978. I didn't really understand anything until I got into the 80s, and he was there. And he was kind of the vision of what I thought a president should be, not even knowing about his policies or anything like that. And then I got older, I started to appreciate what he stood for and what he meant for the country, not only about understanding the proper role of government, fighting to unleash, American energy and innovation in the economy, but then taking on the Soviet Union. I mean, one thing I was in the 80s, I was a young pro-American Cold Warrior, rooting for Rocky against Drago, all that, and Reagan really represented a stand against communism, where a lot of the smart set said it couldn't be done. Ronald Reagan understood we would win and they would lose.
President Ronald Reagan faced down, as you noted, an authoritarian regime that sought to change our way of life. He faced down a faltering economy, and he turned around a sense among many that America's best days were behind her. What lessons from President Reagan's presidency do you see as most relevant to today's challenges?
Well, I think the overall environment that he came into is probably the most similar to what we're facing. As you mentioned, people said it's an era of limits. You're going to have to accept less. We're going to have suboptimal outcomes. There's no way we can compete with the Soviet Union. Ronald Reagan rejected all of that. He believed in America. He understood that our principles and values were ultimately what set us apart. And if we embrace those, we would do well. I think we're in a similar place now. Our country's faltering. There is a national malaise taking place. Seems like we stub our toe as a people. The country is in a state of decline. A lot of people are saying our best days are behind us. But like Reagan, I believe that we can get the job done. We can reverse the country's decline. We can get it on a better trajectory, and we can restore freedom throughout the land.
President Reagan spoke of America as a shining city on a hill. Is America today still that shining city, and what would you do as president to keep it shining brightly in the eyes of the American people and beyond?
Well, I remember his farewell address where he was able to remark on 8 years and say we left the city stronger and freer as a result of our efforts. And so I think, this campaign, there's hustle bustle. What am I going to be able to say in January of 2033? And I think what we'll be able to say is we have restored America to be a shining city on a hill like President Reagan envisioned. We'll have a robust economy. People will be able to get ahead again. We'll have enforceable borders. We'll have a strong military. We'll have fended off the threat from China. We'll have schools dedicated to educating kids, not indoctrinating kids. We'll have safe streets across sea to shining sea, and we'll have a constitution that's been reinvigorated, government that's been limited to work on behalf of the people, not weaponized against the people. If we're able to say all that, then I think we will have won one for the Gipper.
You just mentioned a whole series of really critical issues in this campaign. Of all the topics that are going to come up in the debate stage, what key issue do you want to make sure the American people hear from you about?
We need to restore the American dream in this country. People can't get ahead. These are people that are working hard, they're trying to raise families, they're doing everything right, and they're falling further and further behind. If we can't make America work for those people, we're not going to be successful. And what I can tell people is, it's not just rhetoric for me. I've actually done it in the state of Florida. Our economy is ranked #1 in America. We've had more in-migration than any other state. We've cut taxes every year, budget surpluses. I've actually paid down almost 25% of our state's debt. That's why we're doing very well, and we're really cutting against the trends of Bidenomics. We need to take that know-how to Washington and be able to do that for the whole country.
Last question, Governor. There are many candidates in this race. Why should Republican primary voters vote for you?
I'm the only person running who, every time I said I would do something, I've delivered. I've gotten involved in big fights on behalf of people, and I've won those fights. We were supposed to have a red wave as Republicans 22. That crashed and burned. In Florida, we delivered the red wave. I'm the only person running who's served our country in uniform, and I'll be the first president elected since 1988 who's actually served in a war. And in that kind of, I think, service above self, focus on what's best for the people and the mission above all else, that's what I would bring as president. And so, yes, we need to win the election. We need to do all that. But we need a president going there for 2 terms and get all the stuff done. We haven't had a president that's been able to say they've done that since President Reagan, and I hope to follow in his footsteps.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, thank you for your time. You're welcome back anytime here at the Reagan Library.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.